Hello, welcome to another episode of Manga Monday. I am Jason Hahn, and today we're talking about One Piece, chapter 1060, titled Luffy's Dream. Oh man, it's been 1060 chapters, and we're finally getting to hear what the main hero of the series wants to accomplish.
We're actually not getting to hear what the main
Yeah. Well, again, I am Jason Hahn, and I'm a writer for ScreenRant.com. I happen to write a lot of video game related stuff, but I'm a huge manga fan, so I decided to start Manga Mondays to talk about new chapters of the series we love. And today, we're talking about the newest chapter of One Piece, and I got another buddy from Screen Rant to help me do so. Ben, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm Ben. As Jason said, I'm also a writer for Screen Rant for the comics section. I write about, manga. I write about DC comics, the works. And One Piece is my favorite manga of all time. So I'm excited to discuss its latest chapter because it was pretty great, in my opinion.
Another jam-packed chapter with lots to talk about, and yeah, we'll get right into it. We started out. We didn't get another chapter or another panel essentially of the emotional excursion. So the last we saw was Katakuri and Oven, Big Mom's strongest children, knocking each other out supposedly because of some hallucination gas. So that could be over, or it's not the first time Oda has kind of taken a break from the cover story stuff. But we did get a really cool double color drawing of pretty much the whole newly established Straw Hat crew, which I thought was pretty cool. I could definitely
Yeah.
see that being a stylish poster on somebody's wall.
I love seeing when the cover just does the full crew spread.
Hmm.
It just brings joy to my heart, and this was no exception.
And I feel like we have to do this disclaimer. Smoking kills, but also don't put cigarettes in
Mhm.
your nose.
Yeah, two very good ways uh, to live your life.
Well, that's about all we got on the cover page there. But yeah, so much happened again in this chapter. But again, we started off kind of in a place where a lot of One Piece fans thrive, and that is on the Sunny when all the crew is just kind of hanging out and chatting. And the whole time while we're on Wano, us fans had the knowledge of what happened at the Reverie, everything that has been going on around the world, the warlords, the stuff with Vivi, like all of that has been just baking in our brains for a very long time. And we've just been very curious to see how Luffy and crew is going to react to that information. And it's literally like so much information that we weren't really sure how Oda was going to introduce like their reactions to it. And the way he's been doing it, I'm actually a pretty big fan of. Like, instead of having one chapter where we just lay out everything, it's kind of been the last couple chapters where they're learning about, everything else that's going on around in the world. And this one finally broke down. Started out with Luffy's reaction to the accusation that Sabo killed Alabasta's king, and Vivi is missing. And of course, I think I said it in a previous podcast. My prediction on this reaction was spot on. Luffy was saying, "No, he would never do that. I don't believe he would be able to do that." But let's turn around and go right back to Alabasta. We need to go help. And that's another one of my favorite bits that just anytime like Luffy's being absolutely outrageous and almost completely changing the course of the series, there's Zoro to kind of make him back down and talk logic. And the last big time I remember this happening was, of course, on my favorite One Piece arc, Water Seven, and Enies Lobby, back when Luffy and Usopp were fighting about having to take the Mary out of commission, and Zoro was a pivotal character at that moment to essentially remind Luffy, just like, you need to stay strong with your decisions, or else the whole crew is going to have a hard time like following you and that sort of thing. So it's just consistently establishing how great of a first mate Zoro is. And it's something that I wish the series had a few more moments like that, but anytime it's there, it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like One Piece is very adept at just like throwing in these small little details, like of like crew interactions, just like brilliant, and we all love them because we love the crew and how they're like a big family.
Hmm.
But like, it's there's so much plot stuff going on that also it managed to fit those in like, within the plot almost and have it be a part of the story itself, which makes it more satisfying in my opinion. But I would love at some point, maybe after the series wraps up, just like a slice of life thing with the crew, just being the crew and hanging and doing random things. Like that would be great. Um, because also like right after Zoro said that, you get to see like the three people who are basically trying to um, go say we should go and help Vivi, being like Luffy, Nami, Chopper. Them all being like, oh Zoro, you're just a big green Kaido, all that stuff. And then Sanji joins in as well because
Right.
Sanji just hates Zoro. And then they just get fighting in the background. It's just another one of those great minor details that's just like, oh, I love the crew. They're so good.
Yeah, and I would love it's something that hope somebody will eventually ask and ask Oda in one of the SBCs or something like that. Is a lot of mangas usually have like a training arc to establish our characters getting stronger, but One Piece characters just seem to rise to the occasion and get stronger while they're fighting. But I would love it if it's revealed that that's how they all do their training is on the ship. Zoro and Sabo Sanji are consistently just fighting so much that they're getting stronger because they're fighting so much. There was a pretty humorous comic too of Zoro lifting weights to train, and then it shows Sanji having to guard the fridge from Luffy, and that's how Sanji and Luffy are consistently training is because they're having to fight against each other. Uh, it just that kind of correlates back to just how wonderfully all these characters are written. So whenever we do get a moment where they're all talking, we just have all this background and the years of us, spending time with these characters. We know how all their relationships and dynamics balance each other out, and that I think that's one of those reasons so many people love these chapters where the crew's just kind of all on the ship interacting with each other, just because they're all just so fun, and the funness of the characters is accentuated by the dynamic and all that stuff. So, but in the middle of all that, this is one note I took that that as soon as I read it or saw the panel, I was like very shocked to see that Caribou is on the ship. Because
He's everywhere.
yeah, he's everywhere at once. But last we saw him, he heard something that he shouldn't have heard on Wano, and he's like, "Oh man, insert mysterious name here. Would love to hear about these other secret weapons, especially Poseidon being on Wano." So I was expecting him to have, left Wano right then and there to go towards whoever his benefactor is. Some people think it's Blackbeard. I don't know. I've heard a couple interesting theories.
I think that we're not going to find out about that for a while. I think Caribou's just going to be like tagging along with the crew at important moments, and then like in a big fight or something, he'll instigate something, right? He'll pop up and like contact his benefactor, and then the benefactor will show up, and it'll be a major threat.
Yeah.
And just come out of nowhere. But like, I don't think that's going to happen yet. I think it's going to happen at a very dramatic moment, and until then, Caribou's just going to be comedic relief, like kind of like Buggy, with Buggy just inexplicably rising higher and higher. Caribou's like a similar sort of thing, just inexplicably gaining more and more information.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of thinking it might be more involved than that. I think it might be wherever they're heading next. Just on the way that Oda's kind of writing the series right now too, it just seems like everything is happening as fast as possible, and I'm almost wondering if whoever his benefactor is going to be wherever they end up going, essentially. So,
I feel like Caribou's going to keep up the bit a little bit longer. But
yeah,
I don't think that that's going to come to a head yet. Just because I feel like Oda's going to milk that for as long as possible. So I feel like it's going to be like in the end game,
yeah,
it's going to get resolved.
yeah. I wouldn't hate
And I
that.
don't think we're in the end game yet. I think we're getting there, but
Right.
you know, there's still a lot of places to see, things to do. You know,
Oh, right.
uh,
There's still a lot getting set up, and this chapter definitely continued to do that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be interesting because initially I thought when I found out that Sabo was on this island that I guess that island doesn't exist. I can't remember the name. It's like blacked out of my memory. I don't know. But Sabo is somewhere, and I thought, oh, the Straw Hats are going to go there.
Mhm.
But then that place doesn't exist. So I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. So when they met up with Bonnie, I think that's may bring them to the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. But
I
that's my
agree
guess for where we're
because
going next.
yeah, that's kind of the big mystery is how did she just end up there? And I mean, the crew eventually needs to get to Mariwa or Marijois, however you want to say it. And yeah, she was there during the Sabo incident and with she was infiltrating. I don't remember if she was infiltrating with the Revolutionary Army or if she just happened to be there at the
Oh,
same time too.
she is. I think it's been stated that she is a member of the Revolutionary Army, but I'm not sure she was with like that crew that was going to do that thing. I think she was there explicitly to try and rescue Kuma.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but I mean, if we get, I mean, I think the thing that pretty much every One Piece fan, like the backstory that pretty much every One Piece fan wants, almost of all, is Kuma, right? Because there's so many mysteries with Kuma and like what his backstory actually is, how he became this sort of like half robot hybrid, what noble sacrifice he had to make because it's going to be really tragic no matter what it is. So I think that we may some of that because Bonnie has close ties to Kuma, which would be great. It could also potentially bring us to Vegapunk's island because we've seen that Kuma is sort of like just a robot. Like there's nothing left of him on the Revolutionary Island. So maybe they go to Vegapunk's island to try and jumpstart his personality or something.
Oh,
Um,
hopefully. Well, I mean, there's
but
kind of. Do we know that Vegapunk has his own island and that he's not on Mariwa?
we don't, and that's we know so little about Vegapunk, but
Mm,
I wouldn't be surprised if he has his own island. I mean, I remember at the end of our last discussion, I said Egghead could be an actual island that Vegapunk is on.
yeah.
Um, so if that's the case, then a lot of different strands would be converging on that island, and it could lead to a very good next arc. Um, but it's kind of interesting because I feel like for the first time in a while, there's so many different directions the series can go, and there's not a clear direction where it's going to go. Like with everything in the last saga, it was like, oh, we're heading eventually to Wano. We encounter things along the way, but Wano is our end goal,
Hmm.
and we don't really have that here, which is very.
Oh, you kind of cut out there. You want to repeat that sentence?
Oh yeah, in the last saga we had everything leading up to Wano, right? We'd encountered different islands along the way, but the final goal was Wano, so we had a clear destination in mind. Now we don't really, like the location of the last road poneglyph is unknown.
Hmm.
Um, we don't know which island I think they're going to. Although I remember Francesco saying that we do have some confirmation, although I'm not sure where that confirmation comes from.
Same. He seemed to be
Uh,
very confident in knowing which island we were heading towards, and I was just like, I don't know which YouTuber you watch, but I haven't heard about that. But uh,
yeah, so I'm unsure about that, but yeah, I'm just very excited to see where they end up because I'm actually not sure if we're going to get there next chapter or even in the next like 2 or 3 chapters.
yeah, very
That might be a
true.
while.
Well, I kind of feel like that's what this chapter gave us. I think this chapter was kind of the first, like, well, not the first, because even before we left Wano, they were talking about, okay, well, we need to figure out where that last poneglyph is and like that. But this chapter, I think, kind of was at least the first step towards whatever this next arc is going to be, because it's obviously going to have something to do with Bonnie, with her showing up at the end there. Real quick, the chapter ends with them fight in some sort of icy part of the ocean, and a giant swell of water, like an orb of water, like appears in front of them. And because Luffy just has a weird sense of hearing the voice of the universe, or however you want to say it, he could determine that there was somebody in there. And Sanji, very close to that ability when it comes to attractive women, heard a damsel in distress in there as well. And it was revealed to be Bonnie, who was another one of the worst generation. She's somebody that can, like, change her age and the age of others, and revert them back into being a child or make them old. And we saw her infiltrating Mary Wa during the reverie. She came in as an old lady, and then kind of transformed back into Bonnie. And she's still kind of a mysterious character. She's definitely one of the worst generation characters that we haven't had a lot of time with. So as we were talking about earlier here, we're not 100%. I think Ben was saying it's confirmed that she is part of the revolutionaries, but maybe just not working in tandem with them. I'm not sure, but that will be revealed.
It's unclear. Yeah. And it's interesting, too, because I'm pretty sure, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure she's the only member of the worst generation that we haven't actually spent a lot of time with, like, as the Straw Hats, right? We've seen her throughout the story doing things, but, like, all the other worst generations have been directly involved with the Straw Hats at one point.
Well, and I'd say before Wano, there was a huge, almost half of them were just like, oh yeah, that was that one guy that one time. And then Wano happened.
There was Apu, there was Kid, there was Drake. Actually, I just remembered there's the Sky Person worst generation. We haven't really. We saw him on a sky island that Kaido jumped off of. But, I don't remember his name, but so we haven't seen him either. So maybe he'll show up in the next arc as well. We don't know what's up with him.
I would hope so, because he's definitely. I almost forgot about that guy. It's how little he's been in the series. But Bonnie's always been kind of interesting. I've always thought her power was really cool, and I love her design and how she's just always shoveling food in her face. She's kind of the only other person next to Luffy who I think loves food as much.
And I think it might be related to her ability. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. Imagine.
Yeah, because it probably requires a lot of calories to switch up and down from. But we're kind of we've there's a couple huge things that have happened in this chapter. We've been kind of dancing around to kind of go back to the Straw Hats being on the ship. This is going to lead into it, but another one of my favorite parts of this was my favorite Straw Hat lady, Robin, reading the paper and saying, wow, so many things have happened, and you'll recognize a lot of these names. Luffy, do you want to hear about it? And he's like, nah, just give me the footnotes. Tell me what's important, essentially. And I'm just like, I feel like Oda is teasing us. Like, I feel like he's wrote this I feel like Robin was talking to us directly. With that, she's just like going over all these high profile things, and
well, this sort of thing has happened before, and I always love it when it happens because it's just so One Piece. It's like no other shonen series would do this. I think every other series, if they are bringing this up, they would then dive in what the actual details are. But Oda's like, no, it's the characters wouldn't want to know that, so we're not going to do it. Quote, and also it builds suspense for later.
Yeah. Quote, I'm sure you've had enough news from now. No, I haven't. I just give me that whole newspaper, please.
And it also harkens back to me for like when Rayleigh was like, oh, you want to know what the One Piece is? And Luffy's like, no, I don't.
Right.
I want to find out.
And together,
And
every fan screamed at their monitors or whatever however they
yeah,
were reading it.
but it really is perfect because, would it have been satisfying for us to learn what the One Piece is like at that point in time?
Yeah,
Probably
400
not.
chapters in. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
man, that would have been pretty funny. Well, yeah. So Luffy just asked for the cliff notes, and we don't even get them. But as he's laying down, he's revealing. He's like, "Oh no, I know Sabo wouldn't do that." We had a moment where we all talked about our dreams as a kid, and this is actually a moment that I hate to reveal this, but I haven't read most of One Piece. I've watched most of One Piece. I was into the anime until I think it got to.
Heretic.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was until I got to like Dressrosa, and then the pacing for Dressrosa in the anime is just atrocious in my opinion. And so I switched to the manga since Dressrosa. So I've been reading it for a while now, but I do need to go back and go through the whole series again. However, the anime has done a couple moments I'd say better than the manga has done in some aspects. Just in like fleshing some things out. We've talked about it previously. I rather enjoy the One Piece anime still at this point. I think it's gotten a lot better since they got to Wano. They have different show directors and stuff like that. Different artists now. They're actually getting artists from around the world to do a lot of the stuff now, and some people dislike it. I'm 100% for it. I'm actually really excited to watch the newest episode because I've heard it's another fantastically drawn episode. Anyway, to kind of go back to there's a couple panels in this chapter that flash back to when Luffy and Sabo were kids, and there's a moment where them and Ace were all proclaiming what they wanted to do, their dreams essentially. And this moment was even shown in the anime, and it also cut off right where this cuts off too. Is Luffy getting on the cliff and yelling, "I wanna blah 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 blah," and then I think in the anime it also cut to Ace and Sabo's reaction of just being like, "What? Oh my god, that's huge!" And even back then, and I kind of felt the same way here. It was just Luffy proclaiming again that he wanted to be king of the pirates, or he wants to be the most free. But then you turn the page, and it is clearly something more than that. So much so that I love how even we get a panel of the Sunny. The front of the Sunny sort of having a reaction almost, but I know it's mostly supposed to, be just the overall emotion of the crowd,
Yeah.
just being shocked question mark. But the whole idea, and it might be something they, come back to later. Oh, I'm actually positive they're going to come back to the series with this because near the end of Skypiea and before Enies Lobby, it was revealed that the ships eventually kind of get a soul of their own. And we had some hilarious reaction panels of the Sunny. or, no, not the Sunny, of the Mary. That I
Yeah,
love.
the little sweat drop thing
Yeah.
that appears throughout anime and manga.
Yeah. And it just like shocked eyes
But
and stuff like
yeah,
that sometimes. But yeah, so we got Luffy proclaiming his dream, and apparently he hasn't told anybody, including everybody on the crew, until this moment. And there's a lot of speculation in the One Piece community now on what it could be, because it feels, at first I was kind of shocked. I was like, wait, like, okay, so there is something more than just being the most free or being the pirate king. He actually has, like, he wants to do that, so then
I mean,
he could possibly
it could be the
accomplish.
most free thing still. Because, well, we know it's not the Pirate King thing because I think Jinbei says, like, oh, you have to be the Pirate King to accomplish that dream. And it would be kind of weird for him to say that if Luffy's dream was, I want to be the Pirate King.
Well,
I mean,
true.
it is technically correct that you do have to be the Pirate King to be the Pirate King. But it's
Yeah.
kind of a weird thing to say, Jinbei, if that's the case.
Yeah,
So,
it just especially like the whole crew wouldn't react this way if Luffy just said again, I'm going to be the king of the pirates, because they've all heard him say that. That was like one of the first things he said to them anytime they met. So,
yeah. Unless it's actually a secret detail of like the crew getting amnesia. Maybe the lack of memory thing is affecting people
yeah, maybe the closer
because
they get, The closer they get into these more dangerous seas, they start to lose their memories.
Yeah, well, there's another sort of thing that happens in this chapter that sort of it's unclear whether memory is being wiped or if it's just physically things being wiped out.
Yeah.
But
that's what's so crazy about this chapter is like everything we've been talking about except the Bonnie stuff. We're still only like 9 pages into this 20-page chapter.
Yeah, and I mean we didn't even talk about really Vivi. Like we talked about Zoro, keeping the lid on that and keeping everyone rational, but like we didn't even talk about how they're still caring for Vivi and all that stuff and what it might mean, and maybe Vivi will join the crew again. And I've seen speculation about that where like people are saying, oh, this is to set up Vivi joining the crew again and them all sailing together. And I mean, I would love that personally because I love Vivi. I think she's a great character, and her interactions with the crew are great. And it'll be interesting to see her interactions with crewmates who did not know her, were not there at Alabasta. And
that was actually another thing I loved about this chapter too is, especially with the send off that we got the end of Alabasta is, still one of the greatest moments in the series, with the X on the arm reveal thing. But for the longest time, especially for characters that they say like, oh no, you're a Straw Hat, but we'll leave you here, goodbye, and like not talk about you for many years. But this chapter kind of like accentuated that. It's like it's more than that. Like they are legitimately, like Vivi is legitimately a Straw Hat. She's just there's probably a better word for it, but not a temporary Straw Hat, but just somebody that's got more important things to do. But that's kind of Luffy especially saying like, turn this ship around, we're going to Alabasta because we need to help Vivi. And then Zoro being like, that's not going to help anything, she's not there, there's not anything we'd be able to do at Alabasta. But I just love that the feelings are still there. Like they legitimately, they are all a big family. And even though it's been many years for us, but a few years for them since they left Vivi after saving Alabasta and stuff. But it's really nice, and I kind of loved to see that they still have such strong connections to Straw Hats, even ones that we haven't seen for a while.
And I think it's especially good that it's happening here, given that like last chapter we saw them say goodbye to Yamato. And then be like, you're Yamato asking like, but I'm still a part of your crew, right? And Luffy's like, yeah, you're a part of, like, we're still all crewmates and stuff, but I get why you have to stay here. So that's a similar sort of thing where like Yamato had to stay behind in Wano, Vivi had to stay behind in Alabasta. So it makes sense that they're sort of echoing each other, parallel characters.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of wondering if the same thing's going to happen for Yamato one of these days, where like they hear something bad happened at Wano and they're like, oh no, we need to go help Yamato. But I almost see Yamato like setting sail herself or their self, and showing up later on in the series. I hope. I really hope. I
feel like Yamato isn't going to set sail on their own. I feel like they're going to, like, it would just feel weird. I don't know.
We're either going to get a dramatic thing happen at Wano. Somebody's going to come and try to get Pluton, possibly. And then, that's how we see or catch up with Yamato and Momo and them again. Or there's going to be some gigantic clash, and all the people that the Straw Hats have helped are going to show up at this clash.
I mean, we've got the Straw Hat Grand Fleet as well. Yeah. So, like, they're all going to probably show up as well. Like, the final arc of this series is going to blow everything out of the water, I think. Unintended.
It's one of those things, the more you think about it, the more you're just like, oh, how is he going to be able to do this? But honestly, if anybody could do it, it's going to be Oda. So
yeah, it's something like where you think back to Marineford, and like Marineford's my favorite arc of the series, and it was just so good like every plot thread that had been put down pretty much in the first part of the series. All these characters who we thought had just been one and done and then forgotten, they all came back, they all served a role. And it was just glorious to see them all colliding in that way in this awesome epic fight. And I feel like it's just going to be like that at the end of the series, but 10 times better, because like there's going to be so much more, or maybe 10 times worse because there will be too much. But like,
I think it'll be 10 times better, because I'll say this and then I'll say my experience with Marineford, but I think it's going to be 10 times better because, you know, if the Grand Fleet shows up and it's all these people that we've legitimately spent time with and know, going through whatever they have to go through in the final arc. With Marineford, it was all these legends that, you know, we had heard about, but we didn't really know much about. So it was definitely interesting getting to see like the dynamic of the older generation all coming together and essentially ending there too, because they lost so many people on Marineford. My Marineford is absolutely one of the best arcs in the entire series, but as I said earlier, I was an anime watcher and not a manga reader at the time, and so I was kind of catching up with the series for a while. And even before I got to that part, some douchebag at a party ruined Akainu kills Ace for me. So the entire time I'm going through Marineford, I know that. And that really destroyed a lot of the tension for me.
yeah, that's unfortunate.
Even especially when they like free Ace, and I was just like, "Oh my god, they're actually gonna succeed!" But now I know what's yeah, and so that really ruins.
Yeah, I managed to avoid spoilers for that, so I was very lucky. I actually managed to avoid spoilers that there was a time skip as well.
Oh wow!
Somehow. I think it's just because I read through the manga so quickly when I got caught up and got into it, that I just like, you know, there wasn't time. I was done. I got caught up, and then I, you know, didn't have to worry about spoilers.
That's nice. So yeah, my interpretation of Marineford is definitely different, because if you know that going in, for your first experience, it definitely takes the wind out of the sails. But after knowing everything now, it would definitely accentuate rereading the series for me. So, that was flashbacks. That was all that. Luffy proclaiming in front of Ace and Sabo what he wants to do. He even told Shanks, and Shanks got teary hearing about it. So yeah, legitimately, what do we think Luffy's dream might be? Mine, I think he might have already revealed it a couple chapters ago with what he told Wano, or what he told Wano, Mr. Wano himself, Kaido. Because Kaido asked, you know, what kind of world do you want to be able to create? What are you striving to do? And he wants, you know, to create a world where everybody can eat as much as they want. I you know, that could kind of fit here. I'm almost wondering, you know, he essentially wants to end world hunger and fill the bellies of everybody in the world, essentially. And that, you know, that kind of fits. I think there's some characters there, obviously, who are just like, oh man, that's hilarious. That could never happen like that. Especially like Brook, who is somebody who sat on a ship as each one of his crew members died of starvation. And other things. Like, somebody like that hearing that, I would have that reaction, I feel.
I don't know. I
don't
mean,
know. Thoughts?
I feel like it would be underwhelming if it's just like, oh, I want to make a world where everyone can eat as much as they want to. And also, I feel like it wouldn't quite fit the moment in which he said it as a kid, right? Like, I feel like given the moment that he said it as a kid, I feel like it might be something related to like family, or like I want a world where I can have a huge family, or like I want a world where I can have like thousands of brothers, just like you and Ace, like Sabo and Ace. I could see it being something like that. And then you got to be Pirate King so that way you can actually have that big of a family, like the Charlotte family, Big Mom's family.
Oh, my brain
That
went
sort
to
of thing.
Whitebeard.
Oh, that too. Yeah, Whitebeard's family. Like we've seen that all these or a lot of these big pirate crews are basically just families, right? Like huge, gigantic families, and I could see Luffy wanting to have that sort of thing.
I know what I
So,
disagree because I feel like he you know what had sort of he had accomplished that really after Dressrosa when he had these thousands of pirate crews being like we all want to we all want to be a family essentially, or we all want to be your grand fleet, and he's just like nah.
but he wants more.
Okay.
He doesn't
Okay.
want it just to be like a fleet. He wants it to be like a crew, if that makes sense. Like I don't know.
No, it's
I feel
I hear you.
like yeah. I mean, I feel like it's something that won't get revealed for a long time yet. So,
Right.
uh, but it might just be something completely different from all of these. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think it won't be something we won't have revealed for a very long time. Um, it's
And
almost like a final fight sort of thing, where the final villain, whether it be Blackbeard or Emu or Eam, um, where the kind of the same thing that happened with the end of the Kaido fight, where they're asking Luffy what it is he hopes to accomplish, what is this thing he's working towards, and then that's when Luffy reveals it. So yeah,
yeah,
both valid
I
theories.
agree with that. I think it's gonna come out in that final fight, and it's interesting too because like you look at like every other shonen series or most other shonen series, and like you're not asking like what does this character actually want? What's this mystery in this character? Like I mean, look at like My Hero, right? We know what Deku wants. Like there's no mystery. I mean, there's a mystery surrounding one of Deku's powers, but like in terms of like motivations and stuff, it's like no, he's Deku. He wants to just save people. Look at like Naruto, right? There's not really any mystery surrounding Naruto's motivations.
Hmm.
But Luffy, there's some mystery there, and it's not like Luffy's like a secretive person.
No.
Like I think Luffy wears his heart on his sleeve, but it's just like I don't know. It's just such a unique character. I think.
Well, and it's
Uh,
just like it's mind blowing that we've gone 1,060 chapters, and we still are at this point where Oda can still add this mystery. Like
yeah,
it would be like if at the end of Naruto, which had 700 chapters on the dot, um, if that 600 chapters in, Naruto reveals that he wanted to be Hokage, so then he could end or remove all the families and we're all just part of the village. Like it would be if he just dropped something else of just like, oh well, that's just part of my goal. It's actually I want to do that so then I can do this, and it's like, oh okay, you didn't mention that at all. And
no.
I kind of love that that's even how Oda wrote Luffy being like, oh, I haven't told you guys this.
And it makes perfect sense given that like Luffy's been doing this the entire series, right? Like when we first met Ace, Luffy was like, "Oh, it's my brother Ace," and they're like, "You have a brother?" And he was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Like
Sabo too.
it makes sense when you like meet people and stuff. You're not just like, "Hi, I'm Luffy. I have two brothers. This is my
This is my dream.
like yeah. There's no real reason for Luffy to have said a lot of this stuff. I mean, you can argue the dream thing he should have said, but like, I mean, it feels natural. It feels like a realistic thing where you're like talking with friends and you find out that a friend did something that you never knew about, and you're like, "Whoa, that's so cool!" And they're like, "Yeah, you didn't know about that? Oh, that's weird. I guess I never mentioned it." Uh, and that feels just very, very natural to me, like very
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like tagged on. It doesn't feel like it's like ruined anything previously that's been said or done in the series. It just adds to it, and that's something I think Oda does almost unparalleled. At least
Yeah,
in my limited series that I've read and stuff like that. Uh, as you can tell on Manga Mondays, we talk about a lot of very popular mangas, and those are the ones I've read. There's literally thousands, millions of other series out there that I'm sure are also fantastic that I just haven't gotten to. But
Well, as someone reading the smaller series, I'll say that he's unparalleled in those two for the most
good.
part.
Ben is a lot more experienced in manga reading than I am, so I would take what he has to say with some levity. But speaking of levity and Eam, the next chunk of the chapter. Oh boy, we got.
I wouldn't call that part of the chapter having much levity. It's very serious. It's very
Well, I guess
like
I think of levity as like gravity, and a lot of gravity hit a
levity is
particular
the
island.
opposite of gravity.
Thank you, Ben.
Levity is like lightheartedness.
Speaking of the opposite of that, then, okay, just heaven rain down. We got more Eam than we've ever gotten. I think this chapter doubled the amount of Eam that we've seen. Well, if you want to call it seen. He is still just a black silhouette, and but
He's got his map.
yeah, it's or a tablet.
Uh,
But so it's almost like showing us just a glimpse of the king of the world's power, because as soon as they put an X on the island of Luisha, which is where they're intercepting this call from Sabo, it was literally going on just as the conversation was happening, because Sabo like made the call, the world government intercepted the call, and then Eam immediately crossed out the island, and Sabo is seen like putting the phone down essentially and staring at the sky, and
and the art in that section, like, whew, that was incredibly good. Very different sort of art that you don't normally see in One Piece. Like the heavy shadows, like the I mean, Oda's, it can be, sometimes we can forget, given that, like, the characters are so cartoony and stuff, but Oda is, like, an insanely talented artist.
oh
Like,
yeah,
just...
he's been doing it a while.
Yeah, but, like, you can look at, if you get the chance, definitely look up his, like, actual, like, portraits, like, paintings that he's made of, like, real people. They look very, very, like, he's got major art skills, like, beyond just, like, this cartoony style.
Oh man, your mic cut out, and the one word I wanted that to accentuate that, his portraits of people are very what?
Realistic. They're very,
okay.
yeah, they're very good. Like,
Oh man,
he's an incredibly good artist. Yeah, no, it's
well yeah.
it's just
After this podcast, I'm going to look those up, and I'll put a link to I'll put the link to that in the description. So please check that out, and all the other plugs and recommendations you'll see in that for later.
yeah.
But yeah, and that's kind of another thing too, is we're getting the bubbles of almost. I don't know if it's so much a narrator or more of just people being told this. And the world government, or it could be Eam actually talking. But to set this up, Sabo is making an emergency call towards the revolutionaries, which is the cliffhanger that we had a couple chapters ago. Sabo is calling Dragon, and for the first time ever, I mean, Sabo is like chief of staff. Like, he is one of the highest ranking, one of the best revolutionary officers out there, and parts of the world are calling him an unofficial emperor, essentially the Flame Emperor. So there's a lot of people up there who think of Sabo up there with Luffy in regards to how much pull he has around the world and that sort of thing. And he did a very stupid thing. I mean, he's a very, very wanted man, or he just didn't have a choice because he had to get this information out, and he succeeded.
Did he?
I think he did. I think he succeeded in getting the one bit of information the revolutionaries absolutely needed to hear was about the existence of Eam, because it
No, but
is.
I think it cut out before he was able to do that.
Oh, in the fan translation, it definitely seemed like he did get it out. Um, Terrible. What was it?
I just read the official one, but uh,
Okay.
it seems to me like they Im cut the line before he was actually able to get get a reasonable. Yeah, they heard about they heard him say the throne, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, the throne? What's up with the throne? But I think it got cut off before he was able to say that someone sits in it.
Okay,
Um,
I'm looking at the official page right now, and the official translation is saying, "Communications cut off the transponder snail." Huh? And then he yells it. Um, so I think that he did get that line through, but that's the last line he's able to throw
okay.
out. And then it cuts to like somebody at the world government, and it's kind of hard to tell because they drew the speech bubbles of Sabo yelling the same way that they did the speech bubbles for essentially people telling at the world government is like, communications, listen to me, you did not detect anything today, you did not intercept anything,
Mm.
that country never existed. um, and
Yeah.
then that's the panel of just hell, I mean lasers or something. It's almost like they have a satellite that's just able to shoot giant lasers somewhere to totally wipe out an entire island that Saba was on. And it's
Yeah,
another
which
thing.
is
uh, I'll just say real quick, like it's kind of before Wano, none of us, read One Piece, and there's like nobody dies. Like Pell at the end of Alabaster was carrying a nuclear weapon and somehow survived it detonating right next to him. There's just so many characters that should be dead but are not dead. And then
mm.
Wano happened, and we had a few characters die. So I'm almost thinking that Oda did that specifically to make us doubt this, or be more tension for is Sabo alive or dead? Because if those
I
people
think it's
didn't
just
die in Wano, then we would absolutely just be like, oh no, he's fine until proven otherwise. He still might
yeah,
be
I mean,
fine, but
I think that the stakes of the series have just risen as the series has gone on, and so since they've risen so much, Oda has been fine killing off some characters at this point. I mean, Cobra also is dead now. Nefertari Cobra.
yeah,
Um, like he's, I mean, he might not be dead. Maybe it's a big, mix up, but it seems like he's dead, which is kind of shocking because he was a character that we had grown to like over the course of Alabasta, and it was always fun seeing him with Vivi whenever you check back there. But now he's dead. We had some of the Scabbards die. We have various people die, and I think it's just the stakes of the series have gotten to the point where people are going to die,
yeah.
including whole island potentially.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and it's positively helping the series too. Like it's kind of an issue
yeah,
a lot of people have had with One Piece is just, well, if you're not going to kill off any of these characters, then I just feel like anyone's going to survive at everything being thrown at them. But now that people are starting to die, it's definitely risen the tension of this, and it's exactly where we need to be right now. Like, I mean, I think I
yeah,
said it a couple podcasts ago, but I was just like, we need to fear the world government again. And this chapter and 1059, getting to see the new, the Seraphins, where I think we can adamantly say we are afraid of the world government now. Um,
yeah, and it's one of those things that I think is very realistic about One Piece that I've seen some people complain about, but I think is actually very good. Is that the world government's kind of this hodgepodge? There are some lower down officers who are just kind of like jokes, right? And have been jokes from the beginning of the series, basically. Luffy just going in, taking them out very easily, and then moving on. But there are these incredibly powerful, just monsters in the government. Not even counting him, just the admirals, just the admirals and the just there's some very, very powerful officers, and I think that's a very realistic way to paint the organization, right? Um, because there are going to be varying power levels, right? It's not a uniform. Oh, everyone in this is like insanely strong. Protagonists can't beat them or something. Um, no, I think it's like I think it makes it better that occasionally we're lulled into thinking, oh, the world isn't actually that strong, and then we're just reminded in moments like this or a Buster call that like, damn, they really are.
Yeah, they can be scary. Well, yeah, and it just we really needed that after after Wano happened, and just consistently us being told Kaido is the strongest creature in the world. It's just like, okay, well, once the strongest creature in the world is taken down, what do you have to fear? Kind of what Luffy was accentuating with Momo. It's just like, you just bit an emperor of the sea. What else do you have to be afraid of now? Well, you should be afraid of this entity that nobody in the world really knows about until the revolutionaries have finally been able to hear about it. I want to say that that information got out because it's so important that that information gets out to the right people at this stage, I feel like. And the revolutionaries knowing about some king of all is going to have a major part to play in whatever they decide to do next. Would love, well, I feel it has to happen, revolutionaries and straw hats teaming up eventually.
Oh yeah, and I'm excited for that. And it might be this upcoming arc, with Bonnie being connected to the Revolutionary Army. This could also be this sort of thing where it's like, we met the samurais in Punk Hazard, and then we spent pretty much the whole previous saga getting to Wano. It could be a sort of thing where like we meet Jewelry Bonnie now, and then we spend some time trying to get to the Revolutionary Army and we encounter all these islands on the way. Which I would actually be fine with because I think there's some great things that need to get fleshed out on some of these other islands, and it'd be interesting to see how he interacts with the crew for a while. So
Absolutely. And one major theory I've had, and I don't know if I've said it on previous podcasts, but I what if the two most mysterious characters in this series, Eam and Vegapunk, could be the same person?
they could. That would be very interesting. I would personally like them to be different people, but I think that would be if it is that they're the same person. I think it'd be make for a great reveal at some point.
Yeah, because I mean, I love the idea of Vegapunk, not being evil at all. He's just, such an eccentric scientist. He's just like keeps on creating all these things just because he can. And then the world government itself is evil, so they're like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and turn this into something that's a weapon. And he's just like, I don't care. I'm already working on something else.
I'm pretty sure Im is evil.
Yeah. That's
so
going to if they are separate people.
If they are, yeah.
This chapter especially accentuated that because Eam has just consistently been such a mystery. Like the most evil thing we've seen him do is stab a picture to make us think that he needs to wipe somebody from existence. And I kind of go back to what you're bringing up about this or in the podcast earlier, that there could be something more to Eam's power than just being able to wipe an island off of the map. Who knows if it's actually like literally erasing that from existence, so it never did exist.
Something that we should bring up though about his power is that it's likely not his power, but it's likely, and this theory has been banged about by a bunch of people, likely the weapon Uranus.
Yeah.
Because it's in the sky. That's what Uranus is.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And so, like, that could be the third ancient weapon, and that could be a large portion. That could be what solidified the world government's hold on society. It's like, well, if you get out of line, we're just going to blast you out of the sky with Uranus, So...
What a sentence.
Yeah.
But and that's something I thought of too as I was reading this chapter, because it was literally just a couple chapters ago where we were brought up. It's just like, okay, well, we know where all the major weapons are except Uranus. We have no idea what that is. No one's seen it, for decades. And that would be that would line up perfectly. And this is exactly what I expect a super weapon to be able to do too. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean that's even more exciting to see what Pluton is capable of, whatever it ends up being. Um, it just Wano's got to change dramatically before that's revealed.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think or there's a big theory as to what what Neptune can do, right? What the sea weapon can do and that's take control of sea beasts that
The
are
Sea
all in
Kings.
the Sea Kings, yeah, which makes perfect sense. So now we're getting confirmation on Dream's tower, kind of, and yeah, we really don't know what Pluton can do. So it will be very interesting to see.
Yeah, very exciting. Tensions are growing, and everything that's been hinted at is, well, not everything, but things that have been hinted at are just becoming more exciting. And oh man, just what another great chapter. It's another one of those things where there's like a popular older video of a young gentleman trying to make food for the first time, and he's got a pot of boiling grease, and he's just so like nervous about it. He throws some frozen french fries in it and doesn't get the lid on all the way, so then it starts bubbling and exploding and getting worse by the second. And somebody was just like, live footage of Oda writing the last couple chapters, just like just absolute fire. like so yeah, we're not on break next week. The chapter ended with a young Bonnie being found in the ocean. And yeah, as we said last time we saw her, she was at the Reverie. So she somehow. Well, actually, I mean, the Reverie, even at this point, happened. I mean,
A while ago.
definitely a while ago for us, but like in the span of One Piece, I mean, it still may have been
No,
like
yeah,
a month ago, a couple
yeah, it
weeks
happened a
ago.
while ago in the span of One Piece itself, not just in real life, but in
Yeah.
One Piece. Uh, it's been a while.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I'm just really curious. I might have to ask Francesco about this because he seems to have unofficial information about the geography of One Piece. But just very curious on like Mary Wa is compared to like where they are right now, like Wano. Like essentially, how did Bonnie get here from Mary Wa within that amount of time? Also, very curious on where Cobb or the place that all of the revolutionaries are hanging out at currently too. Um,
Hmm. Yeah,
just
Kamabaka Island. That was where Sanji was during the time skip, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, yeah,
That's Ivankov's island, I think.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just we know that they need to somehow play a major part into the series. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how all of these players converge because
Yeah.
it feels like they are potentially all very far away from each other. Um,
Yeah,
so
I'm
very
very
exciting.
excited to see that convergence because Oda is a master of doing that sort of thing. So
Yeah, I almost wonder
that should
if
be very fun.
in Kuma's rescue mission, because it's been established that Bonnie and Kuma have a history, possibly a romantic one. I think I've seen in some.
I I don't think it's romantic. I mean, that's
Yeah,
just my
I could be wrong for sure. I thought
yeah.
I thought I had read some comment about uh, putting together all the little clues that we've had, and I think Kuma used to be a king or something like that. Um, yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I could definitely be way
I,
off here.
yeah, I just feel like because Oda doesn't write like romance, I feel like he's never written romance even into his backstories, except for I guess the guy from Dressrosa with the one leg. That guy
Kiros?
maybe. Uh, the
Well,
father.
yeah, Kiros.
Yeah, yeah, Kiros.
Well, it
Yeah.
was also alluded
Um,
that Doffy and Princess had a carnal relationship.
yeah, but it's like never the forefront, right? Like even in the backstory where it showed Kiros and Rebecca's mother, having a romantic relationship, the point of that backstory was more like the father-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Oda isn't really going to focus a flashback, an emotional flashback on like a romantic relationship falling. Like I feel like it's going to be more like a father-daughter sort of relationship.
Oh yeah,
But
possibly. Yeah, I'm not expecting it to like have a big romantic thing. I just knew that they were important to each other. So when it's eventually revealed what really happened at the Reverie, yeah, possibly Kuma did the same thing he did to all the Straw Hats, saved their lives by teleporting them to wherever they needed to essentially be. And same thing. I'm wondering if he did this to Bonnie and she ended up going here to meet the Straw Hats.
yeah, I think we'll find out next chapter though. So
Yeah, possibly. And that would also positively prove that, Kuma isn't 100% lost. There is still some Kuma in there. Because before the Reverie, he defended the Thousand Sunny the whole time during the time skip, which is one reason he was like really messed up. And then from there, I think we are to assume he got captured by the world government and was made, a slave on Mary Wa.
yeah, but then when we see him on the Revolutionary Island afterwards, he's still out of it.
Still robotic, yeah.
There's nothing in there, so it's interesting. It will be interesting to see. And maybe it's not even related to Kuma. Maybe it's just like something completely different. But
yeah, that's just my theory. That's my
yeah. I definitely think that has merit. Yeah, it could definitely be that as well.
Well, man, I've got one more note to bring up, but
Okay.
yeah, I'd love to hear any of your remaining thoughts on the chapter 2. But this, from the major revelations and things that we've been talking about, this is definitely a small detail. But I just really enjoyed that Eames Castle is called Pangea Castle.
Yeah.
Because Pangea, if you're not familiar or forgot about school, there's this thing our planet does called Continental Drift, where all of our giant land masses are, just very slowly moving, tectonic plates and all that good stuff. But it just stands to the evidence, I'll suggest, that everything was one giant landmass at one point, and it was called Pangea. And then since everything's been kind of moving away, and if it happens fast enough before the sun swallows us all up, it will happen again, where all the land masses converge once again. Possibly.
Well,
I'm no geologist, but interesting.
well, that ties into the whole like all blue thing, right? Where like his dream is to find the mythical all blue, where like all the fish in the ocean are all there. But that implies that it's like all the oceans were once maybe connected, and now they were split up somehow, maybe through Pluton, because we've seen that Pluton was able to raise up Wano. Maybe Pluton was able to raise up like the Grand Line, and so maybe Pangea Castle is a reference to how the All Blue was once one thing, but then got split up in order to make the world government's like headquarters and stuff. So who knows? That's a bit of an out there theory, but it could be.
It would definitely be interesting if like all of the legend or ancient weapons at one point, if somebody had power of all the ancient weapons, they could easily be considered a god, being able to literally like shift the planet and reconfigure land masses and stuff. Like that's quite godlike in my opinion. But I almost think if Eam knew that Pluton was on Wano, they would have put more resources into stopping the Straw Hats from arriving there.
Well, they might not know it's on Wano. It could have been like there's so much we don't know about the Void Century, but I'm just saying I could see it being this way.
Yeah. Well, man, anything else about chapter 1060 before we go into plugs and revelations?
I think that's it for me. It's a major chapter, huge, a lot of revelations. So I just loved it. Um, Hopefully, the next week's chapter is on the same level. Um,
I don't know, man. I mean, these last two chapters just had such, earth-shattering things. Just because we have so much to catch up on for the Straw Hats, especially. I'm almost thinking, I think everything's been set up already. I almost feel like we could just see what Bonnie has to say and what the Straw Hats are going to do with it from there. But I almost see the series getting more focused now.
yeah, no, I think we're gonna get to getting a destination for this next arc. Um, because Bonnie, as I mentioned earlier, I think Bonnie will give them an overarching destination to go towards, and then, yeah, it'll be fun to see what exactly that is.
Right. Or she'll be in a coma, and then everyone's just like, "Wait, I think we recognize her." Blah 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 blah, and then it jumps
Oh,
over
it didn't
jumps
seem
over to
like she
something
was in
else.
a. It didn't seem like she was in a coma at the end of the chapter. It seemed like she was awake to me. Um,
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out. And luckily, One Piece 10,061 is not on break, so we will be getting
yeah, I'm very happy about that.
so we'll be getting unofficial translations in a couple days from now, and then official translation probably next Sunday. And Mega Manga Monday will be here to talk about it. Very excited about chapter 10,000 or 10,000. I hope this series doesn't go that long.
You hope it
1061.
doesn't?
Yeah, that would take too long, man.
I'd be there for it.
If we're only
As
halfway through, I'd be like, "Oh man, that's Oda. I don't know if you're gonna make it to the end of this series, man." But okay, but 10,000. If we somehow cloned Oda and keep to be able to keep on writing it, okay. But yeah, I don't think so.
mm,
But yeah, that's been Mega Manga Monday for One Piece 1060. We'll definitely be back for One Piece 1061 next week, so look forward to that. But moving on to plugs and recommendations, I again am Jason Hahn. Would love it if you checked out other episodes of Mega Manga Monday. We talk about other series like Chainsaw Man, My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball Super, Boruto, all kinds of stuff. Would love it if you check that out and follow us on Twitter at Manga Mondays. There we pretty much post updates on when new chapter or new discussions are coming out and what we're going to be talking about that week. But thanks so much for listening. I also have a YouTube channel called Honzy and Friends. There I do a lot of streaming and a few comedic Let's Play videos from time to time, but I like to stream on Wednesdays and Sundays and try to be funny while I'm doing so. But recently finished the newest God of War on PlayStation 5. Incredibly excited for Ragnarok. And almost done beating Stray, which is that adorable kitty cat game where you're a cat wandering through like a apocalyptic cyberpunk kind of world, and it's a lot more relaxing to play than a lot of the other games I've played, but it's a treat. But yeah, Ben, how about you, man? Any plugs or recommendations today?
yeah, for recommendations, I can't really think of anything recently that I haven't mentioned on the channel before. But I guess I'll say I recommended Made in Abyss season 2 when it first started airing, and now it's going to finish up with an hour-long episode in like a week, I think.
Oh,
So
and
now's the perfect time to get caught up on that if
okay.
you're not. Great show. Very just like adorable characters and exploring a nice little like abyss thing. Yeah, great. Just a very fun, feel good, relaxing show with no deeper trauma underneath it whatsoever.
Oh boy, I'm not sensing
Yeah.
any sarcasm there, but I'm glad to hear that
Oh,
season 2 has been enjoyable. I can think of a
oh,
few
it's been.
series where the follow up season wasn't quite as enjoyable as the first, so I'm glad to hear
Yeah,
that,
no,
man.
it has managed to like be on a similar level as the movie, which was superb as well, in just a completely different way. So I've been loving it. And then for plugs, I have a YouTube channel of my own called YGO from Zero, where I cover historical formats of the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game. So if that sounds up your alley, definitely check it out.
Absolutely. Well, I'll have links in the description for our plugs and recommendations. But again, we'll be talking One Piece chapter 1061 next week. Please leave comments and follow. Let us know if there's anything we missed. I would also love to hear what your favorite parts of this chapter were, or if you have any theories, would love to hear them. But thank you so much for listening to Manga Monday, and Ben, thank you for your time. And it's always a lot of fun talking One Piece with you, man.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I'll see y'all next time.
Yeah, peace.